Maritime Wrestling fans, Kevin here. Welcome to another episode of You Missed Out. My guest tonight is Maddison Miles.
Hello, guys.
Thanks for being on.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Maddison wrestles all over the Maritimes, places like UCW, IHW, Vision Pro, formerly Wrestle Center, has toured all over the country. So we're definitely happy to have you on.
Thank you so much.
Before we start, a couple just housekeeping stuff. It was announced today that the May 13th show, IHW in Truro, tickets are on sale as of today. So if you're in the Truro area or anywhere that you want to come up for the drive, great show. Buy your tickets. You can check it out on the IHW Facebook page, or you can contact me and I can let you know how to get them. Also, May 7th, Vision Pro has announced another show in St. John. So,
for anyone who cares to know, I'll be on those two shows as well. So,
yeah,
bonus.
For sure. We'll start with just reviewing the card from this past Saturday with Vision Pro, and then we'll go into the interview. I wasn't at the show this past Saturday, so you might be able to give us a little bit more insight.
A little bit.
So the opener of that card was Wesley Pipes defeating your country idol Chris Hicks.
Yep.
The next one was James Steele defeating Vinnie Gallant with some distraction by Shane Stephen.
Miss Gia was involved in that one, wasn't it? The James Steele match? Yes, she
Yes.
was, yeah.
And I think Shane had his hand in there too. So that was won by James. Next one was Dick Durning against Alistair Pennington Esquire.
Yep.
Is that how you say that?
Alistair Pennington Esquire.
There you
yes.
go. He's new to Vision Pro. I've seen him wrestle at other places. He's quite the character.
Yep. He's one. You know what? It's one of my favorite gimmicks that I've ever seen. Honestly, I absolutely love it.
And if you know him at all,
oh my God,
it's completely different.
It's amazing.
So he does a great job.
It's amazing.
So Dick Durning won that one. Next was Maddison's match with Miss Gia, which Miss Gia won. Do you want to say a little bit about that match?
For the most part, it probably wasn't one of our best matches, but it wasn't bad. The crowd was there for most of it. Yeah, she has a new finisher, which is her knee to the head.
Mm-hmm.
It's a decent move, and yeah, it was only a quick match, so it wasn't really too much to go on. But yeah, she defeated me. I lost. Heartbroken.
Oh, well, you'll get her next time, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The next were a brand new team to Vision Pro, the War Wolves, which is Brett Logan and Nick Diggs. And they defeaed Waste Management, part of that tag team championship tournament they're having this year, which I think is a fantastic idea. I think I've always thought
Nick Diggs is someone that you don't see very often, but he's so good.
Yes,
like he's so good.
And I'm so glad to see him
getting outside. Yeah,
outside
in Nova Scotia. Like when I heard that he was in Vision Pro, I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Good for him.
And I've always felt the Maritimes has missed a tag team division.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see that kind of coming.
I think a tag team division needs to be done if it's done properly.
Yes.
that's the whole point. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
ECW had tag belts for quite a while, but I was reading the history of it the other day, and no one's held it for longer. Like, there's only one team that's actually lost it via pinfall.
Yeah.
So you have to have the meaningful part of tag teams
Exactly.
in there, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, just not have the belts for the sake of having the belts.
Yeah,
like
and then give them to people from out of town, and then they never come back. So the belts don't eventually mean anything if they're not done properly.
For sure, yeah, absolutely. Next was Shane Stevens, who defeated Fantana.
Shane's getting really good too. Like that's someone who he's improving. Like in the last year and a half, he's improved so much. Like.
And I love him as a heel.
Oh, me too.
I love him as a heel, and I think he's now starting that he's a heel everywhere, and I think it suits him so well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and him with I think he's doing a great job with that Interprovincial Championship. Mm. Yeah. And then the main event was Remy Petit against Chip Chambers for the Vision Pro Heavyweight Championship. The way I understood it, Chip won, which caused Mr. Wallace to restart the match.
Yep.
And then Dick Durning came out to make the save on Chip from Wallace and Petit, which brought in Sabotage. And I guess there was a brouhaha between those two groups, and which I think is setting up a tag team match for May 7th in St. John with Chip and Dick. I like that. That's a good little tag team name, Chip and Dick.
It's definitely going to be interesting.
Against Sabotage, so that is going to be interesting. So,
yeah.
So yeah, that was the card.
Definitely the Wesley Pipes and Chris Hicks match. I know, like, I walked in while that match was going on because I was a little late to that show. Mm-hmm. The crowd was so into it. Like,
yeah.
They were definitely, you could just tell from behind the curtain without even looking out. They had a good opener match. Like,
yeah.
Very loud. I watched clips of it and, like, the highlight video and stuff, and
yeah.
it was a good match.
Yeah, I saw the highlight video that New Scott posted.
Yeah.
Which the crowd looked really hot. That their shows are getting better and better. Like the crowds are getting bigger. They're starting to make some traction down there.
They definitely are.
It's definitely nice to see.
Yeah.
I definitely want to thank Dick Durning. He's the one who sent me the results for that show, so I appreciate him sending me that.
Thanks for everything you do, Dick Durning.
Yeah, Dick Durning, you're a good man, my friend. So we'll move on to the questions. So first, you've been around the maritime wrestling since you were probably old enough to walk. Was your intention, your goal and intention always to wrestle?
Definitely not, actually. Yeah, I've been around since I was 5, so it'll be 11 years in July that I've been around Maritimes. Growing up, actually, until probably about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I never thought that I'd be able to actually wrestle because I was like, oh my god, I can't handle pain. I'd never be able to do it, but I always wanted to do something. Like I said, I always wanted to like ref or be a valet or just like I always wanted to be involved, but I definitely never pictured myself wrestling. And even Dad, people are like, did you ever see her like being a wrestler? And we're like, none of us thought she'd be able to handle it, but she proved us all wrong. Like, so yeah, my intentions definitely weren't always to be a wrestler, but
yeah.
Definitely now are.
So following your training with Gary,
mm-hmm.
when we'll get to Gary a little further down here. Following your training, you had your first match with IHW.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about how that match kind of came about.
Well, so I finished my training officially with Gary on October 30th, I believe it was. Yeah. So November 2nd, I was sitting in class, and Caitlin Diamond messaged me, and she's like, hey, want to go on tour? And I was like, oh, when? And she's like, next week. I'm like, I haven't even had a match, and you're like, I'm going to go on tour. And she's like, everything will be okay. We'll have simple matches, and it'll all be good. So that ended up happening, and then I was like the reality set in, and like it was like the craziest week of my life, and I was having like an emotional roller coaster because I'm like, I'm so ready, but I'm so not. And I just sat down one day and I'm like, my first match is going to be away with people who don't know how much this means to me. Mm-hmm. And no idea how big the crowds are going to be. No idea, like, who's going to be there. So it's like, it was killing me. And then, like, this means a lot to Dad, too. And the first venue was 27 hours from here in the middle of nowhere. And he was willing to drive it because he wanted to see my first match. But we were on a lot of reserves. So people who aren't on the reserves, who aren't wrestlers, aren't typically allowed in the reserves. Mm-hmm. So he was willing to drive, but the promoter's like, that's not really a good idea. So then I was like, why can't I just have a match at home before I leave? So then it's like, there's no more shows, and it's like, there's IHW. So I kind of messaged Kevin, and I'm like, I wrote in this big sob story paragraph, and I'm like, you know, I want to be able to share it with the people who understand how much it means to me, right? And all that fun stuff, so. And he's like, let me see what I can do. And then 5 minutes later, he's like, all right, well, we'll have a little match for you. I'm like, so Kevin Tyler, thank you for all the opportunities you've given me, because you were the kickstart for me, 100%.
There you go. So tell us a little bit more, because I have the next questions about that tour. Tell us a little bit more about that experience to go on tour.
Well, when I was sitting in the classroom and I got the text, I was like, oh my god, like I got all excited. My friend's like, what are you going on about? And I'm like, nothing. And then like my heart automatically sank because I was like, this isn't going to happen, right? We're in school, like, I can't miss school, and then I went home, and I was cranky, because I was like, this is so stupid. I'm like, I got home, my mom's like, what's your problem? And I'm like, nothing. She's like, just tell me. So I told her, and she's quiet, and she's just like, are your teachers okay with it? And I'm like, are you actually considering letting me go? And she's like, well, I'll call your father. Talk to Dad, and he was on speaker, and when I told him, he's like, holy shit, really? And then Mom looks at me and she goes, wow, so it must be kind of a big deal then, isn't it? And I was like, so everything ended up working out, and it was 2 weeks, so I flew out. I wrestled in Campbellton on the 7th, and I flew to Toronto on the 9th, and yeah, I got home on the 21st, so it was a good little 2-week tour pretty much. Had about 15 matches while I was on tour. So that was exciting and very good learning experience. And I almost feel, I feel worried for the next tour I'm going to go on, because it's like I was given such an amazing crew to tour with for my first tour ever. Like, that's one of the things. I sat down in the airplane and I just like started crying, and I'm like, I don't think I'm ready for this. Like, there's a lot of things I didn't think about until I got on the plane.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what if this crew, like, what if they're not the best people, or like, what if they're, like, what if they're not as willing to help me learn as, like, the people around here? Because, like, for the people around here, they're like my big brothers, so people are willing to do anything, right? Like,
yeah.
And any help I need, I know I can just ask people. So I was really worried, but they were, like, an amazing group to tour with, so I definitely feel very lucky that for my first time I was given such good people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So right now, women's sports is pretty big thing going on right now with the UFC, and even the WWE is doing a lot with the women.
Yeah.
How important do you think it is for the Maritimes to establish a strong women's division?
At this point in time, I definitely think it is very important. Nowadays, even in high school alone, I know it's a little off topic, but there are no girls anymore with confidence. I can't say no girls, but there's a good percentage of girls nowadays who have no confidence in themselves, and they don't have respect for themselves, and they don't think that they're worth anything. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge issue, because I can't tell you how many times I've had girls come up and, like, crying and just be like, struggling with stuff, right? So it's just, like, it, like, breaks my heart to see that. And then, so it's, like, my very first IHW show in Campbellton, I had this woman come up to me, and she was like, I didn't know about bringing my kids to this event because I didn't know what it would be, and I didn't know there was any girls on the show, but if I had known that you were here, I would have totally brought them. And, like, she went on about, like, how, like, I would have totally empowered her children, and then, like, on tour we did classroom speeches to, like, people, so you'd have little girls come up to you, and that's, at the Spryfield show, I had 2 little girls come up to me, and they're like, we want to be wrestlers just like you, and it's like, you have those moments where you're like, this is why you do what you do, and, like, feeling like you're empowering people and giving them confidence to know that girls can do things, and you should feel comfortable with yourself no matter how tall you are, how short you are, how big you are. Like, it shouldn't matter, right? Like, and it's a really good feeling to be able to say that you're helping people with those issues. Like,
for sure, yeah. Awesome. So a few weeks, or I guess it was a little longer than that, but not pretty recently, you had a match with Xanders Match in IHW. How was that experience for you?
That was by far probably my best match yet. She was amazing to work with. She's such a sweetheart. She got there late, so she got there at, I think, 6:30, and the show started at 7:30, but the fans were already in. But normally I go over a little bit in the ring first, and I always have time to, like, get in the ring with whoever I'm working and, like, go over some stuff, and with her I didn't, but she made me feel so comfortable with what we were doing that it didn't even matter. As far as the match goes itself, that match was probably the best match on my terms of, like, what I can do. Maybe that's not a good way to put it, but, like, there were no major mishaps at all.
Yeah.
Right? So it was smooth sailing for the most part. Yeah, it was. I loved working with Caitlin Diamond too on tour, but at the time I was still in my nerve-wracking, like, oh, I feel really anxious before my matches, and I still get nervous now, but I used to get really anxious to the point where, like, I felt, like, sick to my stomach, right? Yeah. So it's like, with Xandra, I was a little more, I don't want to say advanced, because I didn't really learn a whole lot of new stuff, but I was more comfortable with what I can do.
Yeah.
So by the time I wrestled her, it was like, Yeah, everything was just smooth sailing, so it was amazing.
Awesome.
I
Yeah.
came through the curtain and I just felt so good.
I was at that show, and I would say you guys probably got the biggest reaction that night, or one of the biggest reactions that night.
That was pretty cool. that arena is pretty cool. So
Yeah, that's
not
a
to
great
mention
thing.
that with the sound of the crowd, it was an experience. That's for sure.
For sure. Recently, you did something that it's on my bucket list. I want to do, and so I'm jealous you got to do it. Was to go to Vegas for the Cauldron Alley Club. How was that?
That was amazing. Again, everything is just going to be amazing because I love it all. But it was such a learning experience. There were so many opportunities to meet people that you just see on TV, like growing up, which even for me, like not a lot of people were on TV, but I just know who they are. And obviously I have seen them here and there and like watching old videos and stuff. But it was just incredible. Like you walk through and like at one point I had this woman, like we talked at the buffet for like 10 minutes and then she ended up like just walking into the room and hugging me to find out that she was the Rock's babysitter. Like you talk to people and you just have no idea who they are, and then they're like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm so and so someone, and you're like, what? But yeah, you meet all these people that they're not the biggest stars, but they're people that if someone said to you, would you like to meet them? And you'd be like, oh yeah, that'd be actually really cool to see them, right? Like, and I met the Rock's mom and like Mean Gene and JBL, and there's just so many. I met Mark Carano off Total Divas, so I was like, I marked out a little for that actually, but no, it was incredible, and then the Vegas scene itself is really cool. Like, I always wanted to go there, but knowing now like what it's actually like, it's one of those places that even if there was no wrestling, I'd love to just go back there because we went on the Strip and Fremont Street and all that stuff. So the whole Vegas experience was awesome. And then to top it all off, meeting Trish. That was awesome.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that you got to meet your idol, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of those things like too where it goes back to like empowering people and like letting them know that they can do whatever they want to do. It's like I had people coming up to me and saying that, and then it's like when I met her, I definitely marked out a little. I was like shaking. She just held my hand and hugged me, and she's like, "It's okay." And we just sat and talked for like probably 5 minutes or so. And it was awesome.
Yeah, it's on my list. I definitely want to go there.
It's definitely a good experience. Like if you have anything to do, there were fans there, but like if you're physically involved in any sort of way, it's an amazing experience to get your foot in the door and talk to people and know where people are located, because it's like, yes, we know there's wrestling in BC. Yes, we know there's wrestling in Winnipeg. Yes, like you know all these places, but you're like, who runs there? Right? Yeah. Like for the most part, you don't really know. So to be able to get down there and meet people who are like, yes, I'm the runner of promotions in BC and so on and so forth, it's like, so now I know who to contact if, like, future references and stuff. So it's a good opportunity to get your foot in the door. And,
yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
If you were to bring one female wrestler into the Maritimes to wrestle, if you were just told, get to pick one active female wrestler in the world to come in the Maritimes to wrestle,
There'd probably be a couple on my list, but that's one person I think I'd love to wrestle would be Gail Kim. She's awesome. I just love her. I've watched her for years. So, but I mean, Gail Kim, Natalia, Paige, right? Girls that I've looked up to. So.
I know one that I saw was released not that long ago, and I know you mentioned her, was Velvet Sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that she would be good.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the last piece here, the word association, is there any upcoming shows you're on? Did you want to plug?
Okay. Just trying to think of my schedule in my head here. So April 28th, we're in Kentville. I'm gonna look at my phone for this so I don't mess anything up. Give me 1 second. Alright, yeah, so ECW, April 28th in Kentville. Matt Hardy will be there. As well as Matt Hardy will be there for the other 2 ECW shows I'm on, which is April 29th in Digby and in Spryfield on April 30th. where me and Miss Gia will be wrestling for the Beauty Slammers belt, I believe it's called. So
Nice.
that should be exciting. May 7th in St. John for Vision Pro. May 13th, IHW in Truro. I will definitely be at the May 14th show for Moncton for IHW. I'm not 100% sure if I'm on that show yet or not.
Okay.
And then, yeah, that's it for now. So,
Awesome.
all that I can mention.
So definitely go out and see Madison.
Yeah.
She's
There's going to be some good shows coming up for sure.
yeah, you have no excuse. She's everywhere. So the last thing, the word association. I'll just name you some names, and you say whatever comes to mind. First one is Miss Gia.
Miss Gia. We play our parts in the ring, and we dislike each other, but she's someone who's like my sister. I've only known her for about a year, but in the year we've traveled together, and we've spent many, many hours together training and everything like that. There's a lot of girls who have attempted to come into this business who definitely don't appreciate it for what it is and don't have the respect for it that we do, but out of everybody that I've been able to share this with, I'm glad that I get to share this whole maritime women's revolution with someone like her who actually really appreciates the business and loves it as much as I do. So that's definitely shout out to her because she's my main girl.
Couldn't agree more. She's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Next one, Gary Williams.
Gary. Ooh. Gary's the reason that I am where I am, really. I've known Gary now for probably 9.5 of my 11 years, so Gary is like my uncle. Like he's always around, and it's like I don't always see him that often, but when I do, it's just like nothing ever changes. And I know that whenever I need advice, I can go to him, and I just love Gary to death. Like he's like my family, literally.
Dave Boyce.
F you, Dave Boyce. No. It's an inside joke for anyone watching who just thinks I'm rude. I gotta love Dave. We have a lot of funny experiences together, and we used to be partners in the wrestling business, so he's definitely one of my really good friends. I know he's someone that I can always count on to have a good time with, stuttering here. He's amazing at what he does, and for someone who hasn't been around as long as others, he's, again, someone else who's definitely appreciated the business for what it's worth, and he's put everything he has into this business, and he's been a huge help to me between promo pictures and t-shirts and everything like that. So, again, Dave Boyce is a huge person for me in my career that's helped me. So.
Kevin Tyler.
Kevin Tyler, like I said earlier about my first match in Campbellton and so on and so forth, everything he's done for me so far, he's probably been the one person to give me the most opportunities I've had. And, it's nice to feel like he has a lot of faith in me. And we talk about business a lot, and we have very good conversations about my future, which is good for me, and to be able to have somebody like that definitely knows what they want to do for future events and stuff. So, like I said, Kevin is the person that I originally reached out to, and like all my respect and loyalty is with Kevin for sure, because he kick-started everything for me. So
awesome. Last and certainly not least, Mike and Vicki Miles.
Oh. Well, as I say all the time, I wish people knew how supportive they were of me, because everyone's like, oh yeah, supportive parents, but like, it's insane how supportive they are. The amount of time I miss of school, and like, I still manage to get good grades, but between the amount of time I miss because of school and all the days I'm like, drive me to the gym, come get me, like, and all the things I do, and like everything I attempt to do to make money, like they always take me where I need to go, and they help me with what I need to do. And every time I have an idea that sounds absolutely crazy, I'm just like, listen, hear me out, and then before you cut me off. And then we get to the end, and Dad's like, well, if we just change this one thing, and it's like, that's why I love you, Dad. But no, people always tell me that I need to thank them, and like, I get that, and it's like, I do. Like, I tell them all the time how much I appreciate what they do for me, so it's like by the time I get to wrestling shows, I'm stressed out and I'm cranky because I always run running back and forth. So when people see me, they see that I might not always be the best daughter in the world when we're all around, but I definitely 100% appreciate everything they've done for me. And I mean, the tour alone and wrestling is the biggest thing. Like, it's absolutely insane. And like, they're always thinking of new ideas and new things for me. And it's like, what if you did this? And then, what if you did that? And Dad's like the creative person. And Mom's like, well, wouldn't it make more sense for you to just do this? And I'm like, there you go. Like, this is it. Like, it's incredible. And I feel bad for people who, a lot of people's parents don't support them wanting to be in the business, right? And they don't support them wanting to follow their dreams. And it's like, I could never imagine that because my parents have always been supportive of like anything I've wanted to do, no matter what it's ever been. And then, obviously, as you guys, like as I've said, wrestling is huge for when it comes to needing the support, right? Especially at my age, where up until now, like I don't drive, right? So it's like everywhere I need to go, they take me. Yeah. Right. So. Yeah, huge shout out to them because I definitely, obviously, wouldn't be where I am without them. So.
Well, that's it. That's everything I have. Thank you so much for having us, and thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And well, that's it for now. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.